Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
I'm Chris Clements.
And it's windy today.
It is. It's windy. It's raining. There's things falling from the sky. It's an unusual time here in the Valley of the Sun.
It's weird. We went 6 minutes yesterday on our episode talking about the weather. So we'll skip it.
Yeah. In fact, and you titled it about the weather. So we don't need to talk about the weather. It's going to rain. It's going to snow up in Flagstaff.
The real storm is in D.C.
It is in D.C.
As we are headed towards a potential Schumer shutdown.
The Schumer shutdown. Now, can you believe this?
Well, of course I can believe it because...
you've been there before during these budget debacles. So give our listeners and our viewers sort of like the gamesmanship that you believe is happening right now within our fair republic.
Anytime the Democrats are in charge and they're trying to get a spending bill through, and the Republicans oppose it, and they're forced to do some kind of a compromise, usually a continuing resolution, which is just spending the same level as current until they can get a deal. If the Republicans don't go along, the Democrats say, "Oh, look, it's a Republican shutdown."
Yes. They're aiming for a shutdown. If we shut down the government, they will own it.
Yeah, and so now Speaker Johnson in the House, Republicans passed their bill.
Early.
They passed it a couple days ago, and the deadline is Saturday, I believe.
Yeah, Friday midnight.
And now the Senate, Schumer saying, "Well, no, we're not going to support this. The Republicans are in control." Obviously there's a filibuster. They need
60 votes in the Senate.
And Schumer senators is basically whipping his senators saying, "Do not support this. The Republicans have to own this." And so he's trying to call it a Republican shutdown, but it really is a Schumer shutdown because it's the Democrats not participating.
He's trying to renegotiate the deal into a month-long CR.
Well, this is what's interesting is that what passed the House and what's going to the Senate has already been voted on before, and all the Democrats voted for it.
Yep.
So it is the height of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Shock.
In fact, there's some increased funding, I believe, for military and for Homeland Security.
Yes.
So it has, and they're trying to say that it cuts Medicaid and Medicare and everything. It does none of that.
Does none of that.
It's a complete lie.
It doesn't touch any of that stuff.
Yeah, complete and total lie. So my understanding, there's like a 2.5-hour meeting within the Democratic caucus in the Senate, and some senators came out who are in some purple states who were not happy.
No.
They were long faces because what they're being asked to do is walk the plank.
Yeah, and
by their own version of Captain Hook.
To his credit, one of our favorite senators now, John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, Democrat, said, "No, I'm voting for it. I support the Republican package," and good for him because he understands that this is just game playing.
Yeah,
and he's not a game player. I mean, the one thing that I really do appreciate about John Fetterman is that he is what you see is what you get, and he is a no bullshit type of guy. He's like, I'm shooting straight. I'm gonna say it the way I see it, and he does.
Well, and that's refreshing because what if there's anything, and we talked about this before, I mean, if there's anything that this election really, the great lesson of this last election is authenticity.
Yeah.
If you come across as non-authentic, you're going to lose. Yeah. We saw it here in our own Senate race.
We saw it in our Senate race.
We've
Kamala
seen it
Harris.
elsewhere.
So Carrie Lake, Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris went through a Doritos word salad the other day at some event, and the reaction was instantaneous.
Yeah.
About how we dodged that bullet. And so with Fetterman, I've read some interviews with Fetterman where he talks about his stroke. He talks about how depressed he was after that. And, for him to be that revealing and that honest and then that transparent about a crucial part of his life, and he still was elected, which is incredible. You got to give the guy credit.
Yeah.
Whether he's been solid on Israel, completely solid on Israel, which has been great. And his party is going off the plank on that as well.
Yeah, and he recognizes that he really did. He has been a role model of the type of politician I think that is what the future of America is looking for. Someone who is just, completely transparent
and genuine,
yeah, and says it the way they believe it. He says what he thinks.
Yeah.
And he doesn't couch it.
Well, like I said, when you've been through what he's been through, which was a major stroke, and the way he characterized it, I believe, was that he was near death, and then he had to check himself into, I believe, Walter Reed for just depression and everything else. So when you've been through that, you have a different perspective on what's important and what's not.
These little squabbles seem petty.
Yeah.
And he was the one who tweeted about the reaction of the Democrats to the State of the Union, or the address to Congress, wasn't officially a State of the Union last week, saying this was just stupid.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's unnecessary theater.
Theater that is self-owning. I mean, it's just really dumb. And so this is a good segue into, as we look towards the future, you have John Fetterman setting a good example of what Democrats ought to be looking at.
Sure.
And we now have at least 3 high-profile Democrats who have already made it very abundantly clear that they are looking at running for president in 2028.
Yeah, we're only 40 days into the current presidency.
Yeah. So we've got Pete Buttigieg.
Easy for you to say.
Easy for me to say. Mayor Pete. We've got
South Bend.
Gavin Newsom.
Well, Gavin's been running now for quite some time.
Yeah, but he's making it.
He got torpedoed a bit, and now he's full steam ahead.
Well, and you see that he launched a podcast.
I listened to that podcast.
His first.
He's trying to come off as very reasonable.
I mean, he had Charlie Kirk on. He had
bizarre.
Steve Bannon on. Who else has he had on? Is it just those 2 so far?
I believe he just had Michael Savage on.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. So he's having all these stalwarts of really right-wing conservatism.
Yeah.
And you know what that kind of says, though? He's trying to carve out the likability factor.
Maybe.
In some ways.
Yeah.
Because likability is a major part of politics, regardless of your public policy positions. Easy for me to say. And it's so much of it is how you come across, if you come across likable or not. And I think he's believing that if guys like Michael Savage can come on my podcast and I can come across as likable, or Charlie Kirk for them, or Steve Bannon, and I can come across as likable and engaging, and we can agree to disagree, and we can show America the way this could be.
Yeah.
Then he thinks he can get an advantage.
Smart, because I think anybody with Bannon would appear like him. He's a wholly unlikable person.
He's just an angry guy.
And Gavin has had that that slick, polished politician feel, and so this podcast thing.
The issue with Gavin Newsom is he can come across nice and engaging, and he's obviously a very slick and decent looking guy. But the policies of California and the detriment that has happened under his administration, you can't shy away from.
No.
I mean, just take COVID alone. I mean, it's been 5 years since the lockdowns, and he is the poster child for what not to do.
Right.
And so much of what happened 5 years ago is now coming home to roost in terms of what the truth is. And he's going to have a hard time walking away from that, especially when you have over 1.9 million, I saw today, people who have left the state over the last 5 years.
That's a lot.
Since 2019, 2020.
That's a lot.
That's and you still have businesses leaving the state, packing up. Larry Ellison packed it up.
Yeah.
Everyone's packing it up.
Big ones.
The big ones.
Yeah.
And California is dreamland. But when you have a homeless issue, when you spent $26 million to try to alleviate the homeless problem in the state of California, and where'd the money go?
Yeah.
They can't find it. If you were to doge the California government, It would
That
be
interesting.
I mean, we have scandal after scandal after scandal within the Doge movement. Doge California, and see what you're going to find.
Right.
You're going to find payoffs upon payoffs to different entities that had nothing to do with what the purpose of that money was for.
Yeah. So then the third,
And he's going to be behind.
well,
all of it.
and that, there is still a long time for the next election, and so it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how that plays out.
But
the third,
Mayor Pete, I mean,
Well,
talk about the most ineffective transportation secretary ever.
yeah, his
Politician ever.
when you look at
Took off for 4 months on
This-
maternity leave.
this third person, Rahm Emanuel, is
Very
the one to
skilled.
watch.
Very skilled.
Is the one to watch. He is by far of the three the most politically savvy.
Well, Rahm Emanuel
And-
got Nancy Pelosi as speaker for sure. He enacted a strategy to recruit moderate Democrats
Right.
in Republican districts and Republican leaning districts, and took out a bunch of Republicans in 2006.
Yeah.
That was his strategy.
Right.
And then forced. I mean, it happened even here in Arizona. Gabby Giffords in Tucson.
Yep.
And then forced them to walk the plank on the leftist agenda.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it.
Forced them to vote for card check. Forced them to vote for Obamacare and
Yeah.
other things.
So it will be interesting to watch. Rahm is the one that is the biggest force of nature, I think, of the three. It's not to say there's not going to be others that jump in, and it will be a very interesting thing to watch. It seems so freaking early to be talking about this.
Well, and you can't look at any type of polling or
No,
anything.
no.
I
It's
mean,
way too
people
early for
people who do that are just silly.
I mean, we have to get through the 26 midterms.
Yes.
So, but what these guys do as a part of the midterms will be a good indicator.
Yeah, where they fall in.
As far as like, are they raising money for candidates on the Democrat side? Are they going in to do events for candidates on the
That's the
Democrat
key
side?
part, is if they can raise money for the party and play a part in the midterms,
Yeah.
and
Are
be
they gonna-
be a big deal maker in the midterms.
If they can participate in an effort in which the Democrats take the House back,
Yeah.
that's possible. But I think that I feel like, we talked a little bit on the last episode about the tariffs, and you made the point that you didn't think the market was reacting to the tariffs really that much. I kind of felt like it was. I think it'll be.
I think my biggest point was, I mean, obviously the tariffs are part of the reaction, but I think the broader reaction is the gravy train is coming to a halt.
Yeah.
And the fact that this CR was passed in the manner that it was very quickly, and that Johnson, to his credit, has been able to keep that coalition together. Thomas Massey notwithstanding, but he's been able to keep that coalition together, and it is a clean CR that freezes spending, and they aim to do more with spending, and so the markets have been propped up by government spending here for quite some time.
We talked about that last episode.
And
our
they
GDP
are
has been inflated.
Yeah,
because of
and they are overvalued. So the private sector needs to bet on growth, and we need time to both enact regulatory reform within the government, which is both the purview of DOGE and Office of Management and Budget. And we have every indication that's going to happen. And then also renewing and expanding the Trump tax cuts,
right.
which most people are for. The polling on that is overwhelming. So, but we got to do that quickly. Has to happen before the end of the summer.
Yeah. Well, and
then the markets will recover.
And I think that I really feel like if the tariff thing is going to settle out over the next few months, because it keeps going on again, off again, and we're gonna find out where things land here in the next few months, so that by the time we get to the end of the year, I think if we can pass the tax cut extension, the Trump tax cuts, and actually keep a lid on spending, actually show some actual reductions in spending.
Show some spending discipline.
Yeah. And if the tariffs are settled, which wherever they land, then I think we're going to see the market and the economy really have a rebound.
Oh, absolutely.
And so if that's the case,
Right
if we
now,
go into next year
this is a lot
with
of
a growing
pain.
economy,
Yeah.
then that makes the chances of a Democrat, swing back in the midterm less likely. I don't think there's any chance they can get the Senate. I'll just say that the map is impossible for the Democrats to get the Senate.
Jean Shaheen just announced of New Hampshire her retirement.
So
I had to look her up to see who she was because her career in the Senate has been less than exemplary.
16-year career.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who's Jean Shaheen?
So that seat is a possibility for Republicans with the right candidate.
You think Sununu will jump in?
He might.
I think he should.
Yeah.
I think he'll win.
He could win it.
I completely
He's been a
think
very
he'll
popular
win.
governor.
Georgia, I think that's gone. I think there's a lot of Senate seats that are.
I think
just
Michigan's
gone
on the
for them.
precipice. Georgia's probably gone for them.
Yeah,
so
if Kemp
so
runs, he wins.
we could get to 57, 58, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Elon was talking 60. I think it's a stretch, but I think 55 to 58 is absolutely doable.
Yeah.
And then what happens then is you have Democrats wanting to deal because they want a seat at the table. And
Right.
We've seen that in previous administrations with Republicans.
Well, we started talking about the Schumer shutdown.
You're going to have people break.
The Hill,
before
you are.
Friday.
The Hill is reporting that Senate Democrats are saying privately that there's not going to be a shutdown, that there's, they'll figure out a way to avoid it. They're saying that Chuck Schumer privately is giving his guys plenty of room to go vote for it. I think Fetterman was the beginning of that.
Well, then what does our own Ruben Gallego and where's Mark Kelly? Is he in the country?
It will be interesting to see whether they vote together or if they
Split it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think for Mark, it would make sense for him to vote for it.
Why not Ruben?
Well, I mean, Ruben has kind of cast himself as more of a leftist, and so he could viably vote
I don't know.
against
I mean,
it.
he
And whereas Mark,
he was a co-sponsor of the Lincoln Rally
I
Act.
know they both were, but they both did not stand for the family. So
I don't know.
who's up first? Mark.
Yeah,
right?
Mark's up first.
So he has the ability to carve out, and some people, he's worked with people across the aisle. I know that. I want to give him credit for that. He has the ability to really carve out more of the moderate wing within that structure. So see if he does.
Yeah.
Certainly
Well, actually,
can.
so Kelly is cited in this Hill article with John Hickenlooper from Colorado, warning of the devastating consequences of a shutdown. So,
Of course.
So it looks like you're right.
Well, I
Kelly
mean,
will
it would make
vote-
sense for him to Hickenlooper, business guy, brewer, incidentally.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Hickenlooper Brewing. Yeah.
I didn't know he was a brewer.
He is a brewer.
Oh,
So there you know.
little light beer,
Really dark beer.
dark beer.
I believe their claim to fame is the Mountain Oyster Stout.
Okay. Well, we could have him on. We could say we'll temporarily change the name of the podcast to Dark Beer, Dark Money.
Dark beer.
Or light money.
Or dark beer thoughts, as I like to do it. Yeah, I think there, Virginia, Arizona, Colorado, places where Trump made either gains or won outright, could be definitely in play.
Yeah.
And Virginia's elections are this year, so because they have
They
have
off
off years.
Yeah,
so.
they're governors. So in Virginia, it's a one-term deal for governors, 4 years. You only do one
And
term.
Youngkin hasn't announced one way or the other, has he?
Announced what?
Whether he will run for Senate.
Oh, no, he hasn't. Not yet. But you have Winsome Sears running for governor from the Republican side. Abigail Spangler, I think,
Yes.
is the
Congresswoman.
Congresswoman
From
who's
Leesburg.
likely to be the Democrat. And that will be a very good indicator of where things are headed, for next year.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
it's always kind of a little bit of a like canary in the coal mine.
yeah. Well, that was the definite takeaway from Glenn Youngkin's election, back in the Biden years.
Yeah,
That people were not happy.
right.
So the economy and getting the economy going, getting inflation down, getting a control on spending, getting these tax cuts reauthorized and expanded, it needs to be Donald Trump's number one priority.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Hey, in unison.
in unison. So we mentioned last episode that we were going to talk a little bit about how insane it is that we have so much anti-Semitism
Yes.
from both sides.
Yes. And the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil has definitely heightened
Mahmoud Khalil?
Mahmoud. Mahmoud Khalil. I'm looking at his name right now and his
Yeah.
green card. Lead editorial on the Wall Street Journal. Terrorist support is cause for revocation, but not unpopular speech. Well, he gets an A+ in both.
Yeah,
So
I'd say.
off you go.
So tell us a little bit about because he's been a leading.
So
Right.
he's been a leading organizer in the protests on campus at Columbia University, which both caused a lot of property damage, caused a lot of security folks to be assaulted, and is against many of our civil rights laws as well in terms of their threats to the Jewish citizens who are going to school there.
Right.
So they're going to deport him, and they're going to do everything they can to, after they've won this in court, to use this type of action against others. Just because you have a green card and you're married to an American, which he is, does not give you license to violate our laws.
Yeah. And
the
people-
reaction on the left is just insane.
Well, the reaction on the left is, oh, this is anti-free speech. You can't, they're deporting him for exercising his First Amendment rights. No, he was, according to the White House, he was actually engaged in inciting terrorism.
Yes.
Well, that's definitely deportable.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get involved in protesting and it becomes violent, or you are trying to incite terrorism against people, and you are here as a guest,
Yes.
then you should be invited to leave.
Yes. I completely agree. And if you remember the protests, see, people have short memories, I think. If you remember what was going on at Columbia University in April, May of last year, it was despicable. It was disgusting, and it continues. And he was the ringleader. He was the organizer. He was the leader. Okay.
Yeah.
FAFO.
And it does this likely will probably, because everything gets litigated.
Yes, and it deserves to be litigated.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This argument about him having First Amendment rights. Well, he's not a citizen. He's a green card holder. He's not a citizen. And so, does the First Amendment apply?
I don't even look at it as a First Amendment issue. I look at the other things that happened due to the protests, which violated, people's civil rights.
Yeah, yeah.
And as an organizer of that, if he were head of the KKK and he was burning crosses on the lawns of Columbia University, and at the same time threatening African Americans with lynching and genocide, which is what From the River to the Sea is all about,
right,
is an absolute threat of genocide. And he was, let's say, from Germany. He'd be deported.
Yeah.
And nobody would lift a finger to
No one
support him
defend him.
otherwise.
Yeah,
Nobody would defend him.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's ridiculous. The whole thing is nuts.
So the thing that what I haven't really quite figured out is why there have been so many on the right lately, it seems. And maybe it's overstating it, but there have been a few who have been they're definitely anti-Semitic that have been given a platform, that have been given a voice and some.
Who of which do you speak?
Well, Andrew Tate.
Oh, well, I wouldn't call him on the right. I would just call him a complete total scumbag.
Yeah.
And a rapist, and what? I mean,
Well,
you can go down the line.
The guy that I'm trying to
A
remember.
racist, rapist, misogynist.
Yeah. Who's there's a guy that was tried to claim that Israel was behind 9/11 that was on Joe Rogan recently.
Oh, really?
Ian Carroll? I don't remember his name. But there was a.
Well, there's people who believe that the CIA was behind 9/11. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
nuts. There are people who believe that the Twin Towers did not implode naturally; that they were destroyed by armaments, by explosives.
Yeah.
It was a controlled
demolition.
Yeah, controlled demolition. It was all part of the plan.
All part of.
Yeah. No, I think any type of extremist rhetoric with regard to Israel, the Jews, from the river to the sea, on college campuses especially, needs to be confronted.
Yeah,
because the slippery slope of that, when it's not, is what you're seeing right now in New York and everywhere.
Yeah. And
these cowards walking around with masks on, threatening Jews.
Those of us on the
Nazis.
Those of us on the right need to push back against the anti-Semitism that we see on our own side,
Absolutely.
just as much as we push back against it on the left.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is, I guess, my central message is it is not cool to play in that sandbox.
No.
That is where Hitler was.
Yes.
That is where the Islam.
And I'll even take it a step further. I mean, as Christians, we are called to stand firm by our Jewish brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And without Israel and without the land, our faith means nothing.
Right.
And the people who want to destroy Israel want to destroy us. Don't forget, Israel's just in the way.
Yeah.
If you look at what's happening in Syria right now with Christians, 2,000 slaughtered over the last week, they're coming for us.
Right. No, you're right. Israel is just a roadblock.
Once they're done with Israel and they destroy all the Christian sites, they're coming right at us.
Yeah, and I mean, it may be. What fascinates me, maybe it's the people on the right who are anti-Semitic aren't believers in God.
No, I wouldn't say Andrew Tate is. If you were to go that way,
no, but I think he's Muslim, right?
I don't know. I don't know what he is. But atheist, demonic.
But I don't see how you can be at least a Christian. I don't know how you can be a Christian who reads the Bible and say to yourself, "Oh, I can be anti-Semitic, even though God has told me these are the chosen people."
You can't.
You can't.
You can't say I'm a follower of Jesus. I believe the Bible is holy and inerrant, and be anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Can't.
Yeah.
Impossible.
All right. Well, we solved it.
We did. I mean, the answer is Jesus.
Live up to your Christian values. And if you're not Christian, live up to good human values.
Yes.
Be kind.
But find out who Jesus was.
Yeah.
That's why I'm still going to, evangelize a little
You'll
bit.
evangelize. Yeah.
That's what we do. Occasionally.
Right. Well, on that happy note.
Yes.
Find Jesus.
Find Jesus. Love your brother. Love your sisters.
Be kind.
God bless.
Take care.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.